officially get started. My name is Maria. I do training and support here at Vintrace. My title is a support specialist. So again, I will be giving you a rundown on how to get set up with client billing in Vintrace. It's pretty straightforward. The tedious part is setup. So let's go ahead and get started. Pretty much, you want to go from the gear icon. And you do have client billing here, which will give you all of the categories that you can go in to configure. So if you're not familiar with what exactly you need to set up, you also have the search up top that you can just type in items and you'll, let me do billing items. You'll have billing items. So very specific to a tag that you want to search for. So with the client billing configuring, there are three main ones that you want to make sure that they get set up first. So the first one will be your installment items. So if you click into configure, you do have the billing section. And then the one you want to go first with is items. So the first part of this webinar, I will focus on items, price list, and service orders. Then I can go into installments. So configuring your billing items. So for example, I do have a few here that pretty much with the billing module, this is pretty much work that you're getting done for your clients, and then you want to be able to bill them for your work. So if I go, for example, into this cross-flow filtration, you can see the code can be just very specific to the type of operation. Description, you can add in the charge type. So based on the type of job, this one will be based on the volume, which you can also do per unit, more on the addition side. So how much of an additive you're adding. The man hours, that one can be based on labor. So if you are doing this cross-flow filtration, you can add an extra charge and say, it took my crew 3 hours to get this job done. And then the fixed, so let's say this one can be great for a lab. So a chemistry panel, it can be, I'm charging $100. So that'll be the fixed amount. And then category. So this is just easy category searching. Once you run invoice reports, you can just say, I need to see all of the charges linked to the category under operations. And then down below tax date, you can decide whether this will be non-taxable or taxable at the price list rate. And I will show you where you can set that up. And then an account. So if you want to link this to your accounting package, you can just set those up under accounts. And pretty much you're just choosing where that dollar amount will hit. So for example, I will choose my custom crush revenue account. So based on the code that I have set up against this account, I can easily sync over to that accounting package. And then based on the operation, the filtration, this is the link that you want to make sure that you are attaching. So for example, under winery links, this is where I want to live for the filtration. So winery link, and it is a treatment. So you want to make sure that you have assigned that filtration box. So filtration, crossflow, specific to crossflow, we can go in and set up just a generic for filtration and say that it applies to my DE filtration, my pad filtration. You can add additional treatments. This can be your polish filter, anything pretty much, and just link it to that specific treatment. And then more on the lab links. Also, if you are running, for example, an analysis, you can also link it to a template or to a specific metric. So let me cancel out of here, and then we can set one up from scratch. So just heading into new item, and I am going to call this my pre-bottling item. So anytime that I run pre-bottling analysis, I am going to charge them a fixed rate. And the category will be operations. It'll be taxable based on the price list, if any, and then the account, so my custom crush revenue account. And then the winery link, again, if this is based on additive operation treatments, we can go in that way, but it is a lab. So it can be based on specific metrics. If I just want to go off of the alcohol, a TAPH, I can do that. Or I can just simply find my template. So analysis will be for analysis template. So let's go find my pre-bottling. And that's linked. All right, so, and you can set a default price range, or you can do that at the price list level and save. So now we have pre-bottling. And again, new item, we can say that filtration, that will apply to anything, any type of treatment that carries a filtration. So again, based on a volumetric. And again, I'm just going to keep on using operations and my revenue account, so custom crush. And now under winery links, I can tell Ventraze that I need to charge the client for anything that I record, if it's a crossflow, DE, pad filtration, and save. All right, and then with price lists, I've got a few here that I've configured, but pretty much viewing a price list, this is where you can see all of the items that you've added to the price list. So you can assign this to a winery or a client and say these are the items that I will be billing you for based on the type of work that gets done. So pretty much you start off with the code. So I created this 2023 you owe me. You can set up the tax policy, a default account. So again, I'm just going to default my revenue account. And then payment terms. So days after invoicing, on this day in the current month, on this day in the following month. So I can change this to 30 days. And you can add payment term details. This will print on the invoice. And then configuring your items. So again, adding a line. That's your first option if you only have a couple. But you also have this add all items that throws in all of the items that currently live under the items section. And you do have the export also. You can export the current price list, make changes, increase a price, decrease a price, and then import back into Ventrace. The other option is going from scratch. So using the copy from. So you can start a new price list and just use the copy from function that pretty much just goes after the current price list that you have. So if I close out of this screen and I just go in new price list, I can go and say I want to copy from my you owe me price list. So those items will get added in. I can just go in here and change some of the prices if I do plan on increasing. So my cross-flow filtration is currently at 10 cents. Maybe for this client, they get a better deal and I want to decrease that to 8 cents. And complete analysis, you know, I'm increasing that one to $75. And again, you can give it the code. So I'm just going to call this demo price list. And you also have this advanced section. So we've got a minimum price of $300. So let's say that I've got my minimum for the cross-flow filtration based on a range. So if the minimum volume filtered through is not met, I will charge them $300. So let's say that the range is 0 to 1,500 gallons. That price, let's keep it at 8 cents, the original. But anything filtering through and bringing in more volume, we may want to give them a discount. So let's say 10,000 gallons, and they'll get it at 5 cents. But if that filtration volume is not met, if it doesn't add up to 300, then Ventries will apply that 300 minimum price. You can also override the tax rate that currently lives within the tax policy. All right. So yeah, building your price lists, again, it's very easy, especially because you do have that copy from option, exporting, and importing back into Ventries. And again, if you don't want to do that, you can just say add all items, and this will pick up from the item section. All right, and then your service orders. So pretty much these are the contracts that you are creating based on your client. So they'll come and give you a contract. You'll give them a contract, and you can add in those details here. So if I go and create a new service order, I'm just going to call this my California winery based on the owner's name. So it can be whatever you want, but we recommend that the order number be the client's name. That way you easily know who you're billing. So it's just my California winery client, California winery, and then the price list. What price list do we want to be using for this client? So I will say my 2023, you owe me. You can also do the payment terms here. So I'm going to set this to 30 days after the invoice. All right, so then we can go ahead and save this. So if I go in and look at an invoice, not an invoice, a service order that I already have here, you can see any charges that have been already raised by clicking search. So this is just the daily operations that you're doing against the client's wine. So you'll see charges start pulling through. All right, let me make sure I'm not missing anything else here. And if you do have any questions regarding service orders, just plug them in and I can answer them. Let's see. All right. And I guess the next one that I want to touch on will be your installments. So that is, it's not that new to Ventries, but if you have seen our previous client billing webinar, this little section here was missing. So now you're able to also set up installments. Installments only apply to fruit. So looking at installments is fairly simple again to set up. You can do it based on the type or variety. So for example, my Red Crush, I'm making it just assigned to my red varieties. And my whites, I am saying that it applies to my whites and rosé, since the process is very similar to making a white wine. So I'm also tagging a rosé here. This can also be based on variety. So it'll override the type and then you can select specific varieties. So if I go in and say new installment, and I will call this my small white lot process. Again, is charged on a per ton basis. So I'm just assigning this to my white wines. And in the description, you can specify what is a small lot to you. So I'm going to say anything less than 2 tons is considered a small lot to me. So save. So you can do the same. You can have for reds, even within the name, just so it's very specific, you can throw in less than 2 tons. All right, now to add these don't really, you don't need to run an operation in Vintrace to trigger these charges. You can just go under the service order where these will live. So I will go into my XYZ service order. And we do have the installment charges down below and the billing schedule. So the billing schedule, it's what's going to determine the invoice. So if I add a line and I search the item, you can just select, I'm going to go with the Red Crush. And the rate that I'll be charging per ton will be $1,200. And contracted tons, I'm going to say 50 tons were contracted. So that's giving us a total of $60,000. All right, so that installment, that item is set up. So now let's go with the billing schedule so we can start invoicing. So just adding a line and you're telling Vintrace how many installments you're going to add. So the first installment, I'm going to say, this is a down payment and I require a 50% down. And the invoice date will be March 1st. And that is 50% of the contracted fruit. So from the $60,000, I'm expecting $30,000. And adding a line, I can add 2 more installments, and let's just say, pretty straightforward. Second payment. Oops. Third payment. And that will be 25% each. So $15,000 each for my second and third installment. So based on how fruit is coming in, the 1st of March already passed. So let me save this. This has created that installment. And they will live here. So again, based on how that fruit is coming in, you can just go under charges and run that invoice for the installment. So new invoice run, and you're going to tell Vintrace which one you're invoicing first. So it'll be the 50% and generate invoice. So that's the one that will be, I guess you can say, manual, where you have to tell Vintrace instead of the operation telling Vintrace. All right, if I close this out and go back to under general, let me save this, go back in. We can see that the invoice has been generated. All right. What else do I have in here? And then also key point. So we're setting up all of the billing items, price lists, service orders, installments. So this is set up. So one of the main points that you also want to make sure is set up in Vintrace is making sure that the service orders are linked to the wine batches or to your owners. So pretty much easy way to do that. We always recommend that when you bring in a new owner in VinTrace, going under more options, this will be under the address book. So open address book, find your owner. So I'm just going to keep using I drink wine. And under owner, you are able to default a service order. So this is where we recommend you defaulting that. So I can just go in here and say, this is the service order that will live under the owner. So it's just making sure that all of those are in there. And again, the other option is doing it against the badge. So creating a new badge, create a new wine badge, 23 demo, and you want to be able to assign the owner. And then down below, default the service order. So then you have created wine batches with service orders attached. And another good one that I like to point out is you can also manage your service orders, how many service orders you have out there, how many service orders or how many wine lots you've got in VinTrace that do not carry a service order. You may be running, doing all this work in VinTrace and you may not see any charges raising. So under your dashboard, we do have some dashlets that if you guys don't already have, you can just request for them and we can add them into your database. So one of them is service orders. So you can see that I've got 4 service orders in total against my database. Where no service order, I have a bunch of wines that do not carry a service order. And sometimes VinTrace Winery, that's my winery. I'm not charging myself for any of this work. So we can also tell VinTrace all service orders except my winery. So, but this is a long list like, okay, K wines, this bulk wine does not have a service order attached. Why? So you can pretty much just click into the batch and VinTrace pretty much just opens up a new session and okay, I don't have anything in there. That's why. No service order. Here, this one. All right, so I can go in here, click into one of these wines, and that service order should be blank. So what I can do is just click into the batch, edit for both of them, and attach the service order. So this will be my California winery that was missing a service order. All right, so pretty much that's all we have to do with getting set up with client billing in VinTrace. So just making sure that under setup, client billing, you've got your items configured, your price list set up, and those service orders against the owner. If you do have the winery running off of 2 different service orders, maybe one is ad hoc charges, you can do that just by adding an add charges, or you can carry 2 different service order for the same winery. All right, so just looking at questions right now. So how do I set up a billing item to include a setup fee? For instance, if I had all filtrations cost $100 plus 10 cents a gallon, do I have to set up a fee as a different item? Yes, you can create a setup fee pretty much. Say and this will be very specific to the type of operation. So I would suggest doing like filtration. Oops. Um, Setup fee, and it's fixed. And I will just go under winery link and say that this applies, oops, under operations um, to my transfers. So save. So you do have the filtration and then just the filtration setup fee. So you can go now under price list and let's choose that you owe me money. We do have this filtration here, 10 cents. We're adding a line and we want to throw in the filtration setup fee. And I want to say that that will be $100. So whenever you run a transfer or a rack transfer that will carry a filtration, based on that filtration operation, this will carry over based on the volumetric, how much volume has been filtered, and then your setup fee of $100. All right. Any other questions? I don't see any other questions in here. And again, this is being recorded, so this will go up on our YouTube channel. And also the second part of setting up client billing will come up soon. Again, within like a couple of weeks, you should be receiving an email notification to register for the second part. And again, the second part, I will be covering raising charges, so through operations, storage charges. So this is barrels, tanks, invoicing, and reporting. So yeah, if you do have any other questions, I'll still hang around for a few more minutes to answer any other questions. All right, so we have a couple of questions. So if a batch has two owners, will the charges be split between the owners? Yes. So each owner, you'll be able to tell that based on the volume in each tank. So once those charges are raised, Ventrace will pop up the charges screen, and it will say X amount of dollars is going to this price list, and then the remaining will go to the other owner. So yes, based on volume, that split ownership that will carry that charge. And then does Ventrace have a master list of items? No, Ventrace does not have a master list. Again, it's based on what type of work your clients want. So what we recommend is sometimes based on that contract that you get from the winery, that's how you can start setting up those items in Ventrace. All right, so I don't see any more questions coming in. So if you do think of something later on in the day, just shoot us an email. We live under your profile under help and support. So this is the number that you can reach us for Southern Hemisphere. I believe the number is different, but either number that you try, you will get somebody in support. Sending a ticket into support@ventrace.com. And one thing that I also forgot to mention, you've got your sandbox. So if you need to play around with racing charges, doing a bunch of stuff, breaking your database, remember your sandbox is where you want to be. All right. Well, thank you all for joining me and have a great rest of your day.